Hello everyone, you can call me Arfan, or you can call me Earth. I'm an architect, so far a student, an architecture student in the Philippines, who loves games. And also don't like when publishers start killing games. The initiative, and you can sign down below in the description. I put links for uh, the EU and the UK, and it's important. Mutahar explained this. It's important that you live in Europe overall. I can't sign this, and I wish I can, but I'm in the Philippines, even if it's a former colony of Spain. And if you live in Europe, please do sign this down the description. What I am planning on doing is reacting on um, what pirate software was saying. I've seen enough um, YouTubers speak about this, and I've seen like Jacksepticeye, Mutahar, like I mentioned earlier, even Charlie, Moist Critical, even Asmongold, for that matter. And I want to see what um, Thor said that aggravated um, the community, the gaming community.
Hi, my name is Jason Thor Hall, also known as Pirate Software Online. I've been in the gaming industry for about 20 years. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment, then Amazon Game Studios, and now I own my own studio, Pirate Software, by the same name, which is an indie studio, and I've been here for about 8 years now. I also run a massive community. We've got about 180,000 people in Discord, and most of what I do is try to teach other people how to make games, teach them that they can make games, show them the tools to do so, and try to do everything without any paywalls or bullshit
Okay, so what's the problem here?
way. It's incredibly important to me that we keep making games and that the next generation has the tools to do so so that our medium doesn't die out. And it never will. And that's the whole intention of all of this. So
Yeah, I mean that's the point. Sorry, I have to interrupt this just so I wouldn't have just so this would be counted as fair use. I can't actually like stay in one in keep him talking and while I stay in one frame, one emotion, one look.
with that in mind, that community brought me this and tried to get me to sign it.
Then
And I
sign
don't
it.
want to. Number
Why?
one, I can't because I don't live in Europe.
You don't have to. Just promote it. Tell your European uh viewers to sign it. Be a promoter, be an influencer that to stop killing games, to tell publishers, uh, to tell the whatever parliament or government representative you have to the EU to make it uh, like basically law the for European. Uh, um, I think it only applies to Europe, but I don't know if it also applies to uh, developers worldwide in the US, in the Philippines, China, Korea, Japan, wherever. Um, just be an influencer. Tell to get people to stop killing games to promote them. So far I think last time I checked last week, it's like I actually don't know. It's if it's you know what? Let's just look. He hasn't even linked it. Hold up. I sure. Unintelligible. Um, Jack's put
Been asking
links.
me to talk about it for a while. In the beginning,
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm just yapping. Here's that. I think I clicked the EU version. Error 404. Yeah, because I'm not in the EU. Here's the UK version. Priority high. I'm not in the UK, mind you. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That's really nice. They have more than they have 130%. I don't live in the UK. Let's put in VPN. The EU version. Well, it looks like it's gonna take a while. So it's at 17% at that time, 10 months ago. Yeah, 10 months ago or 11. This was last year. They gave us a year. Okay, whatever. I did not double click it.
But number two, I wouldn't sign it even if I could. And I'm going to kind of go
Important wording. He said wouldn't. He can tell his viewers. Oh my god, I have to reiterate this. Just tell your viewers who lives in Europe to stop killing games. Again, I have to keep on saying this. Mutahar is from Canada. He is in Canada.
through this and try to explain the reasoning as to why that would be the case without all of the internet hate machine that's grown up around it. So let's go into how this works and why this is an issue to me. First things first, what is an initiative?
It's an it's to tell major politicians to notice that something is wrong. It's it's to get someone to notice someone on the higher ups, and if it gets so massive, they have to see it. They have to notice it, and like what is happening in Palestine, free Palestine, death to the IAF, all that stuff. But yeah, that is an initiative to get people to notice and to notice that something is not for not fitting for for everyone. But let's continue.
So an initiative is actually not law. It is something that you put
Yes.
together so you can put it up in front of representatives and they can start the conversation.
Yeah.
The reason why I have a problem with Stop Killing Games is specifically
What?
it starts the wrong conversation. If we're
We are in the speaking within the right conversation, Thor. But what? You know what? I should stop pausing the video. We're only 3 minutes in, and I'm already like 9 minutes in.
we're trying to kill off the practice of developers putting together a live service game, pitching it as a single player experience, and
That's why. So, you know, uh, game. You don't have to kill a game. You just have to let it die, like in Halo. Like that's last time in Halo, in when like I think everyone was playing. I don't remember last what that specific game was because I don't play Halo. I don't own an Xbox. Um, but it was like a very. I don't. I don't think it's the right term, but it's a very romantic story. Seeing like a few players just boot out. There was one last match, and every single one of them, just individually, separately booted themselves out until Microsoft just waited to for it. its servers. Uh, it waited for players to leave in order to announce the death of a server. You can't just kill as a publisher. You can't just kill a game. You have to let it die. That is the nature of things. Especially Ubisoft. I'm one, like, I think Smosh, of all people, announced it. Oh no, promoted Assassin's Creed to me, and I have a couple of friends who just became hype men to. I just realized I switched it. Became hype men to kind of rope me into this rabbit hole of Assassin's Creed, and that made me love Assassin's Creed as a franchise, and I accepted it. I accepted Origins because I was just coming out of Skyrim. I accepted Origins with the game with the new gameplay loop mechanic. It changed into sort of like a Dark Souls clone in combat, and they removed the minimap and put a compass in like in Skyrim. But and I last time I heard there was and I it's just rumor on, I guess, on Twitter, and was reposted on YouTube Shorts and TikTok, that an Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake is in production right now. Maybe it's just a rumor, and that's why they are Ubisoft is about to kill the original servers for Black Flag. I mean, at least the multiplayer. The multiplayer is amazing on Black Flag. If you haven't played it, you are missing out. And I hope in the remake, or in the rumored remake, it's not, barely any of the mechanics are still the same. You know, but yeah, I lost it. I'm trying to remember it, but I really lost it.
And then taking away support in the future, this ain't it. And the reason why is specifically on this initiative, under its own description, it says this initiative calls to require publishers that sell or license video games to consumers in the European Union or related features and assets sold for video games they operate to leave said video games in a functional playable state. Specifically, the initiative seeks to prevent the remote disabling of video games by the publishers before providing reasonable means to continue functioning of said video games without the involvement from the side of the publisher. This isn't always possible in all video games, and it doesn't call out the specific practice that this is supposedly trying to defeat. It is incredibly vague and will damage all live service games. How would you keep League of Legends in a functional playable state?
You actually can't, because I mean, oh yeah, if like in Demon Souls, I was gonna reiterate, gonna go back on what I was about to say. Demon Souls, the original PS3, fans just kind of made their own servers to play the original Demon Souls with. But I mean, I guess the remake was also cool. I don't have a PS5, so I wouldn't know. Anyway,
You'd have to re-architect the entire game. The game is what is called client server. So in client server models, there's a server and there's a client, and all of the math, all of the game, everything happens on the server. The client just displays it. And the reason we want to do it that way is so that you can't teleport around and do a billion damage.
I mean, that's for a That's not just for live service. It's a multiplayer online battle arena. You just can't do that, really.
You don't trust the
Like in that's why it's very sad that I also have to mention Riot Vanguard in this. I'm not really that sad, really, but if you, I mean, right, the Vanguard is good at detecting cheaters, but it's just sad that it has to be a kernel level anti cheat. But you know, not everyone has to has the ability to you know deal tons of damage rather. But I'm losing my train of thought again. Let's play.
client. You trust the server. The client just displays what it's told, right? So if we wanted to re-architect this, we'd have to take all of that server logic, push it back out into the client, and somehow make that playable in a multiplayer-only video game. That doesn't make sense to me. So this isn't going to work for all games. Why is it calling out all games? And
It's calling out all publishers, not just all games. Are you reading the same document?
it's really easy to say, like, oh, that'll get worked out down the line. But we're dealing with government here. If we're going to be putting up these types of ideas specifically in front of government, we need to be calling out the right issues, especially if you don't have precedent set. Because now you're going to be setting precedent on something that doesn't make any sense with people that may not understand the nuance of our industry, all in the name of saving games. I can't agree with that. So let's go into why this is happening, right? So why did this start in the first place? What is the specific cases they've called out that are egregious? And they have one. It's The Crew. So action on The Crew. The video game The Crew, published by
Yeah, I knew it was gonna be mentioned. That's why I didn't mention it earlier. Yeah, Ubisoft just killed The Crew. I really liked it. That you could just drive anywhere. I mean, I would get it. I get it. If it's it would be expensive to host a live service, the client server, to like it's basically a like a Microsoft Flight Sim, but all the storage is in Ubisoft. I actually don't know The Crew. This is just the app setting.
Ubisoft was recently destroyed for all players and had a player base of at least 12 million people. Due to the game's size and France's strong consumer protection laws, this represents one of the best opportunities to hold a publisher accountable for this action. If we're successful in charges being pressed against Ubisoft, this can have a ripple effect on the video games industry to prevent publishers from destroying more games.
Okay, that's why I mentioned Ubisoft. It was The Crew. The second have a ripple effect on the industry. Yeah, that's the point.
First off, I don't like the idea in this that it has a player base of 12 million people. That is not how long-running games work. There is a large number of people that buy the game, and that player base slowly dwindles off until nobody is playing it anymore. If there's any costs associated with keeping the game online, which this was an online video game, then eventually it costs more to keep it online than it does to keep running it, right? So the cost outweighs the amount of income for it. There are bad business practices that can occur in there.
And the games mentioned are just the only ones that were that I don't know. I don't know. Scratch it up.
There are companies that will sell a online-only game as a single-player experience and kind of just put it into the TOS and hide it. But not all companies do that. When they do, we should be calling out that specific company, not all companies. So let's take a look at this and find out more about The Crew itself. If we pull up their Wikipedia, we can see that The Crew was actually created in 2014, which, much to the hatred of all of us oldies on the internet, was 10 years ago. Oh. So this was an online-only racing video game developed by Ubisoft Ivory Tower and Ubisoft Reflections and published.
I mean, yeah, what I said, flight sim. I actually don't know how the storage in it goes.
Published by Ubisoft. So all Ubisoft, right? With that in mind, it said it was a scaled down recreation of the contiguous United States and included both role playing and large scale multiplayer elements. So it had a massive multiplayer component to it. It is an online only service based game. And they shut it down 10 years later. On March 31st, 2024, Ubisoft shut down the game's servers, rendering the game unplayable, which is normal for live service games. The
World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Dota 2, the original Dota. Like even a lot of people are playing the original Dota, like the Warcraft mod for defense, the Defense of the Ancients mod. I actually don't know how to play that game, but I have played that game, and it's mostly uh, a LAN game. Like in you call it internet cafe, we call it com shop. Like in one of the in almost all of the com shops are like required to have an even amount of computers running, just so you could play like a 3v3, 4v4, 2v2, 5v5, uh, a MOBA. And sometimes most of it is actually the old Dota. And guess what? Blizzard does not even support Dota because the map's creator, Ginso, created then created League of Legends, was one of the founders of Riot, and then kind of moved along to create Dota 2. I don't know. I don't know Ginso's story, but that's besides the point. Anyway,
The only thing that I can see in here that could be a problem is if they posted as not an online only experience. But everything that I
I
found
mean I
online
get it.
shows that the game was always marketed as online only. If you're going to be buying an online only game, that means it can only run when it's online. And if the servers need to shut down
All right, Genshin Impact. You can't actually play it on offline.
in the future, far in the future, it makes sense to me for the access to that game to be cut if it's online only. If it's a single player experience that has online only functionality specifically just to shut down the game in the future, and the online only doesn't actually add any gameplay functionality, I'd agree with you. That's a shitty business practice. But that's really rare. And in the specific cases where it does happen, we should call out that, not just all games and not all live service games. Further, there's more context to this.
Knights of the Old Republic. When one of the games killed by I think it was, I don't even know if KOTOR is an online game, but it's not just covering online live service games. It also covers like uh and I'm like what GOG CD Project Red are doing. They are preserving games. They are preserving games through GOG. Like you can see KOTOR in GOG. System Shock, the old games. I don't even know if Command and Conquer, but I know I can like sail the high seas to find it and see to it that I can still play that game on the. I mean, I know I can play it in. It's in EA app. And Steam. I don't know if it's on Steam, but besides the point. anything. Hold up. I apologize for the. Hey, I usually got it for cheap anyway. Okay, we good? We good? Let's keep going.
This too. The Crew itself came out in 2014, but it actually had a sequel that came out in 2018. And then it had another sequel that came out in 2023. And if we go to the Crew's SteamDB, which again is not going to be all of the player base for this, it's only going to show the ones who were playing it through Steam. It was on multiple platforms. We look at the max here. It did start out with a sizable amount of community, and then it degraded. And it had a major drop off in 2018, which is the same year that it launched a sequel. This is normal. When a sequel comes out, a lot of the player base, if the sequel doesn't suck, will move over to it. And then the servers effectively die. You can't run a live service game on this few players. You can't. Most of the time.
You actually have to wait till you have to release a new product to wait for the old players to, like, merc the servers.
Time, especially not if there's anything else that goes into it. And if we go into that anything else, and we could see that there was license problems. So on December 14th, 2023, Ubisoft delisted the Crew and its expansions from digital platforms, suspended sales of microtransactions, and announced that the game's servers would shut down on March 31st. So they gave them 3 months. Usually I would say, hey, 6 months is probably a better deal, but if they're going to do 3 months, they're going to do 3 months. The only thing that I'd be interested outside of that is if there was a contractual obligation to do more than 3 months and they didn't follow it, if it was in the terms of service or not, citing upcoming server infrastructure and licensing constraints. What were those licensing constraints? Well, it turns out that all of the cars in the game were licensed from the car companies. And a 10-year running game likely means that they had license to them for 10 years. And that means that it would likely reopen for negotiation. Now, understand that's speculation, but I've seen this type of a deal many times in the industry while I've been working in it. So it's not unlikely. If you're going to have to renegotiate on a game that has so few players and is not turning a profit anymore, you're probably just going to forego the renegotiation.
That just makes sense in case of the Crew, but we're not, and it's kind of bad. I don't know what the word is, what the word specifically is, but specifically mentioning the Crew kind of throws off the whole point initiative. We're not. Stop Killing Games isn't just about the Crew, it's about all games. That's why GOG, CD Projekt Red, is doing GOG, Good Old Games.
And if those servers are aging, you're not going to want to recreate that infrastructure. And there are some people that'll say, well, just make it all single player. Well, I've explained that doesn't make any sense in the first place. If you're making it all single player, you'd have to carve off all of that. And
you can also just, do what Dota did. Create it, make it a LAN. Blizzard doesn't support Defense of the Ancients, the original. Even Valve doesn't support the original Defense of the Ancients. They just put Dota 2 out of nowhere. There was no Dota 1 owned by Valve. It was owned by Guinness. And then, you know the story.
It's developer time and money. When you already have sequels out and the game has basically no players left anyway, it makes more sense to just move on. I don't find that to be a problem from the developer perspective, and I understand that people find that to be a problem from the player perspective. These are two different ideologies, and that's okay to have two different ideologies. I just won't agree with it because I understand the burden that puts if we raise that problem in the way that we are right now. If you try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not want to run one at all, then no one's going to run them. And we're going to miss out on adventures like Final Fantasy XIV. And even though I don't play anymore, League of Legends or any other live service game, any of them. You're talking everything, like even phone games, as funny as that is.
I mean, I know. Make it a local server.
A lot of people don't realize that phone games require online only activity. What about things like Pokemon Go? What about stuff like Monster Hunter Now?
Angry Birds.
What about any of these? We'd never get any of them. And that's why I think this needs to not be vague. It needs to be
Okay, I get it. I get it. You have to make it more clear for the um, supporters and the representatives to understand. Stop killing games.
specific about the business practice it's trying to defeat, which is specifically companies that are doing this under the guise of it being a single player game, but adding online only functionality that is not necessary and doesn't add any gameplay elements. That's the problem. So now we're going to go to
So basically, stop making games online aside from live service games. I mean, it's still plenty. Riot, both of Riot's games, and a lot of Valve.
Ross, otherwise known as Accursed Farms, the creator of this initiative, and one of the ones that's pushing it the most online. I'm going to let him say exactly why he thinks that this will go through very easily and why it is important, and then I'm going to tell you why I don't agree with it.
Becomes law in the EU? Yeah, it might be. Now, it's not a guarantee, but I think if we get the signatures, this passes. Why do I say that? Well, it's a few factors. Politicians like easy wins, and this doesn't require them to do much at all. And unless it involves gambling or protecting children, politicians generally don't care about video games. So this isn't of big consequence to them or most of their constituencies.
I'm going to stop it there for a moment. The assertion that politicians just like easy wins, so this legislation will go through, but the politicians don't care about a multi-billion-dollar global industry and that it doesn't matter to their constituencies is incredibly absurd to me. I don't think this is the right direction at all for a movement like this. I think it's incredibly damaging and it makes our entire industry look bad, both on the player side and the developer side.
Something's not right here. Like I don't know if I'm following, but something's not right here. I don't know if it's just Thor or the creator of um Stop Killing Games. It feels off. But I guessing that kind of what Thor was feeling.
If we're going to be putting forward anything that may eventually turn into legislation, it should be passing because it's the right thing to do for consumers and developers, and that there's some kind of a middle ground, not just because it's an easy win and politicians don't care. This sets us off on a completely wrong foot.
EU law.
I get the intention, but sure.
Is already unclear on a lot of this practice anyway.
And that's dangerous. If we're going to be setting precedent, which could change the way that law works all the way down the road, then we need to be sending the right message, which this is sending a vague message that doesn't cover the actual problem. So this is not a win to me. This is a huge risk.
And we would be making it easy for them to settle it. It falls in line with other consumer practices. You know how when you buy something, you're generally allowed to keep it?
In the case of live service games, in the terms of service for those, you are not buying the game. You're buying a license to
You're renting
the game.
it.
And that's the part that's really different here. If we don't like the idea of live service games as a whole,
Again, it's like not for. I almost said. I mean, I almost like reiterated on a previous statement. It's mostly for offline games. It means all, but yeah.
I get it. Don't play live service games then. Don't agree to those terms. But if we're under this weird idea that we need to get rid of all live service games or damage that practice in any way to keep in line with consumer policies, it is in line with consumer policies. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be there in the first place. So this doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. You're not buying the game, you're buying a license to the game. In the niche cases where
It's mostly for digital, but yeah.
studio is trying to sell a game as if you are buying it or purchasing it or using that language specifically and they give you a live service game instead, I agree that should change. That language should change. You are not purchasing the game. You are not buying the game. You are paying to have a license to a live service experience. I get that. Is that
I
what
get
this is
that.
doing, though? The initiative is not trying to call that out specifically. It's trying to say that all games need to stay in a functional, playable state, which is not calling out the language that is being used to manipulate the player.
Um, I don't know if any of his statement has changed since last year, but uh, I guess I have to look at Mutahar for this.
Call that out specifically, not this big bullshit.
And finally, this is a diversion from really serious topics that politicians would prefer not to deal with.
That's really gross to me as well. The idea that this is just a diversion from serious topics and they can get an easy win in and we can just push it through and there won't be a lot of pushback on it and they're not going to have to think about it too hard. That's crazy dangerous, dude. If you're going to be setting precedent, if you're going to be putting forward something that you want to start a conversation to eventually become legislation, and these are the reasons for it, not only can I not agree with the initiative, but I can't agree with you. And I think that the tactics that you're using here are really disgusting. So yes, I won't agree with that. And I won't agree with Ross. There's no
Huh?
way around that. I think this is gross. To sum it all up, no, I will not be supporting the initiative Stop Killing Games. You're not going to change my mind on it because I find this language to be incredibly vague and damaging to the rest of our industry. I think that it will be bad for both developers and players down the line in the way that it is currently written. And I think that starting a conversation that doesn't get to the core of the issue is both wasted time and leads to potentially bad outcomes. So if we want to talk about this, let's talk about the actual bad business practices. In the case that a studio is making a live service game and they sell it to you as a product, they say that you are purchasing the game or you are buying the game, when in reality you're actually purchasing or buying a license to that game. I think that we should be fighting about that. That needs to go away. A player should be well informed at the point of purchase that they are purchasing a license, not buying a game. And the reason that we have those licenses in the case of client-server interactions, like we had before, we're talking about client-server games, is so that they can ban you when you cheat at them. They revoke your license. That's why they revoke your license, to protect the gameplay of every other player that you're impacting when you cheat at these games. That needs to exist, but it needs to be better informed to the player at time of purchase. So I agree on that. This doesn't bring that up, though. It just attacks all video games that have online-only components and says that they need to keep being able to be played indefinitely. That doesn't make any sense to me. Aside from that, a lot of people really like live service games as they exist now.
Sure.
So trying to kill off all live service games, as some people have said online, doesn't make any sense either. Live service games are a great way to get away from the real world. They're about social interaction between players. Some people get married in them. Some people met their spouse in them and then got married in them. It's a really cool thing for a point in time in which you're having that social experience. And to destroy that just because you don't like them is very weird. I don't think that makes a lot of sense to me. I also don't think it makes sense the way that Ross is posing this is why it's going to pass. I think that's incredibly inflammatory and
Yeah, also that I do think that the way Ross said it was like also kind of manipulative if you think about it. Where's that? Ah, there it is. That was kind of disturbing, but you know, I kind of have to keep on saying this. It's not for always live service games. It's to make him um own the game, not just the license. Make players own the game, not just make it a license. Make it an offline and experience. You know.
could lead to a lot of damage to both what he's trying to stop and to games as a whole. To say that the government just doesn't care and this is an easy win and we're going to get it through is disingenuous. You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar global industry. To think that the government isn't going to be meticulously looking through this and looking for flaws and holes is absurd. So I don't think that's honest at all, and I find it disgusting. So for everyone who's mad about that, fine. Be angry about it. I'm not going to change my stance on that because I can't agree with this, both as a dev and a player. I see the danger involved, I see the vagueness in the language, and it doesn't make sense to me. If we want to fight for better conditions for players, then fight the actual problem. Don't make new ones.
Hmm. let's see Charlie's.
You know what this is right here, pal?
Yeah.
Ah, tough guy. You feeling lucky? Yeah, that's right. Spirit fingers. Do you know why? Because it's been about 30 hours since I last slept, and I've done 3 different intros, all of which crash and burned, and I am off my gourd, so now I'm going wacko mode.
This is actually my second intro. I actually earlier I just realized the audio wasn't being recorded.
But even in my sleep-deprived state, I am still lucid enough to recognize how cattywampus the AAA gaming space has become. Like, the gaming industry has so many things that I have bitched and moaned about. Probably the biggest practice that I've been most vocal about, not exactly shy on, is the topic of you will own nothing and be happy.
Yeah, that's basically the main purpose of this initiative.
The Ubisoft motto, God rest that company's soul. What a pile of dog
Yeah.
shit. But it's not just Ubisoft. That has become a prevalent business strategy across the gaming industry.
You know, fanboying about Ubisoft from earlier.
You will own nothing. You will be happy. You're basically you come away with the idea of ownership of whatever games you purchase. I've worn this topic out more than a fleshlight in a frat house, but it is something I am very passionate about. The gaming industry is getting away with more and more garbage where they'll take a shit in your mouth and you're expected to thank them for adding some flavor to your taste buds. It's terrible. And there is an initiative that has been aiming to fight back against a lot of these practices that I think really need some big overhaul.
Down
And it's
in
an
the
initiative
description.
that I think a lot of you are probably very familiar with. It's called Stop Killing Games. And I've followed it since its inception. I've talked about it on stream quite a few times, though this is my first video going over it. And I regret that now because I see it wasn't going as well as I thought it was.
Really?
Admittedly, I didn't follow how successful the initiative was, only that it was aiming to do good for consumers, and that it was taking proper steps legally to
Did I say that? Did I say that to like kind of make it easier for consumers, like um
get there, and it was going through all of the right channels. And now today I watched a video from the guy that's spearheading this. His name is Ross. He posted a video called The End of Stop Killing Games where he's giving an update on where everything's at and how it's kind of at the finish line here with a lot of failure to show for it, with only a few other chances to fight back. Now, before getting into the weeds on the topic, I want to get this in the beginning because I imagine the vast majority of people won't watch the whole thing. I'm putting a link
Yeah.
to the full video on Stop Killing Games, as well as a link to where you'd go to help support the Stop Killing Games initiative, because there's
it still hasn't loaded. Oh, it crashed. Where were we?
video going over it. And I regret that now because I see it wasn't going as well as I thought it was. Admittedly, I didn't follow how successful the initiative was, only that it was aiming to do good for consumers, and that it was taking proper steps legally to get there, and it was going through all of the right channels. And now today I watched a video from the guy that's spearheading this. His name is Ross. He posted a video called The End of Stop Killing Games where he's giving an update on where everything's at and how it's kind of at the finish line here with a lot of failure to show for it, with only a few other chances to fight back. Now, before getting into the weeds on the topic, I want to get this in the beginning because I imagine the vast majority of people won't watch the whole thing. I'm putting a link to the full video on Stop Killing Games, as well as a link to where you'd go to help support the Stop Killing Games initiative, because there's only a little bit of time left for the most important parts of it now that it's at the end. So if you know what the movement is and want to support it but didn't know where, the resources are in the description, or if you want to get it right from like the source, I have a link to his video. But I want to go into it myself
Sorry, I just stopped speaking. My dogs were barking.
here because it is a topic that I do feel very strongly about. But for those that don't know anything about Stop Killing Games, I'm going to let him explain it in his own words, so that way you can get an actual, correct, informed explanation of what the initiative is. And the reason I say it like that, kind of like fucking all, pinky out, snooty, is because a lot of people don't even really know what this is because of people like Pirate Software completely misrepresenting what the initiative was.
As a refresher, Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement to stop publishers from effectively destroying video games they have already sold to customers.
I'll pause right there. The
Yeah,
simplest bare
yeah, that's what I understood. I haven't even watched the video. That's what I understood. It's for the consumers. I think I was just like I'm saying the same words, but I'm speaking it differently to make online only, make it offline. I don't know. Last player plays until the heat death of the universe. Last league player gets to die in a when the it's not when the servers are gonna die. It's when the last league player is gonna play until um the sun turns into a red giant, which is 4 billion years from now, also known as a couple of weeks from now. Any day now, really.
bones, birthday suit, butt ass naked explanation for what this is. Stop destroying things that people have paid money to own.
Exactly.
I think that is a very understandable, very reasonable take. Very agreeable. Now I want to quickly jump to a different spot in this video because I think it's important to have this in the beginning because it's something a lot of people have heard that comes from someone that is just wrong about it.
Yeah.
It's the Pirate Software portion. Ross is addressing the video Pirate Software made many months ago. Ross even says that he didn't plan on doing that because he didn't want to be seen as using this for drama farming because it would start to make the movement look less of like a legitimate initiative and more of just like drama slop content type thing.
Yeah, it's all on Sor, really. I kind of agreed on Sor on a little bit of that, but I'm all in for the consumer. Seeing that I am also one, I'm all in for the consumer. I was almost a developer. In another life, I could have been in Ubisoft writing the next Assassin's Creed. But here we are.
But he finally starts talking about Pirate Software here because it's at the end of the life cycle of this initiative and it's not looking promising, so he's willing to do anything to try and set the record straight and hopefully start getting more momentum back to the movement because the damage Pirate Software did to it through his video was substantial.
This video came out right as we were building momentum. Then, except for one boost in Germany, the signatures started drying up like clockwork. Thor does not understand what Stop Killing Games is. Here it is in his words.
So for those who don't understand, the Stop Killing Games initiatives is basically we don't want single-player games
No.
to have DRM that the developers can turn off.
I mean, yeah, that's what we want. Also, we want DRMs to turn off. I want to play Assassin's Creed Shadows. I want to play Monster Hunter Wilds at the when it was about to release because of how pretty it looks. But seeing that Capcom wants to kill Monster Hunter Worlds is much better. But there's only I just stopped playing it because of the one dinosaur that only has a 20-minute limit, and I don't know the map yet. So, but yeah, that's besides the point. Anyway, keep going.
And thus render the single-player games inactive anymore. That's the...
Wait, what? Excuse me? Or were we? Eh?
initiatives is basically we don't want single player games
No.
to have DRM that the developers can turn off and thus render the single player games inactive anymore.
Also, DRMs are shit. Yeah. Let me play as Hi-Fi Rush. It's been 2 years. I want to play that game. I don't want to pay anyone anything. Ironic how his channel is also and his company is called Pirate Software,
That's the
and he doesn't want like people pirating. Like I even pirated his game one time, and I wasn't like interested at all.
this is what they want to change. They need to be specific that they're talking about single player games that do not need a server to support them.
No.
And as much
No.
as they want it to
Huh? What?
be about specifically games where it is a single player game that has always online functionality, it would impact every live service game that exists. Instead of just targeting single player.
Yeah. Okay. That's why people don't like his views, his state in this matter. It's for single players to like. If I want it, if I were like the publisher, I would just like check it one time for the DRM and check the license and verify if that license to play I'm gonna unlock that DRM, and it's like a non-kernel DRM. It's not an always online function. Like I want people to play my game. If even if like it's not profitable for me anymore, I want hackers to make to crack my game and not put a virus in it, just so people could enjoy it. People could enjoy this, and that my game isn't dead. I want other people to enjoy what I created, and it's not through a DRM. That is what accursed game farms. Was it accursed farms? I should have forgot his name. Ross. That's what Ross means.
Always online games.
No, that's not what it is. Stop Killing Games includes single player games, but
Yeah.
nothing about it is specific to them. He completely made that up, and I have no idea where he got that impression. It's the first line on the website.
It's for the consumer.
Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. But the movement includes all this stuff from earlier, and he was mostly talking about the initiative.
He didn't even get the Cliff Notes summary right. He missed all the QTEs and got the bad ending on understanding the initiative from the jump here.
Yeah.
Ross is correct. This has
I didn't even have to read the notes. I just know that if major outlets like here Charlie over here, Mutahar, I keep mentioning Mutahar, and Jacksepticeye to Stop Killing Games. I wonder who else is. There's Muta, there's Sean, Charlie, Asmongold, even Asmongold. I mentioned it earlier. Oh, even Lois Rossman, the frontman of consumer advocacy in the form of Right to Repair.
has nothing to do with just single player
Yeah.
only games that require an online connection, that when the online connection is severed you lose access to the game. Like, yeah, that is included in all of this, but that's not like what the whole movement is about. And for some reason Pirate Software is stun locked on that, like fixated as if that is the actual like meat and potatoes.
Yeah. How did it? How did it flow over his head? Mine went around it. Like I was about to say. I think I was gonna say. It went around me, but it flew above Thor. Like, oh, I saw it. Oh, I think it means I saw this on my periphery. I saw Stop Killing Games on my periphery, and just flew over his head. I was talking about Thor. But anyway, let's go, Charlie.
Of Stop Killing Games. They need to be more specific in their language about it being single player, always online connectivity games. When that's just not what it's about. Like, they're not being specific about that because that is not what they are specifically targeting. It is about the whole practice of destroying games that consumers have already purchased and having no end of life plans for games that are being sunset. So, for example, The Crew. The Crew is an example everyone is going to reference and talk about because Ubisoft is still currently in a lawsuit battling against it for what happened with this game. I've yapped about it quite a bit, so I'm not just going to regurgitate that. I'm sure a lot of you already know this story about it. But basically, you buy The Crew, Ubisoft pulls the plug on the servers, you can't play The Crew anymore. Now it's just an old wet dream of what once was. And they are facing a lawsuit. And
just make The Crew offline, playable for everyone. But then again, it's so massive. Wait, how big is The Crew? Big is The Crew map? Um, you just stop. Yeah, there is. According to Reddit thread, this one. So it's like a tenth of the U.S. It takes an hour from coast to coast. So it takes 9 hours from east to New York to LA by road. I think. I don't know. I don't know how big the U.S. is, but I know this place is bigger than the Philippines, and this place is smaller than the Philippines. I would know because it's the Philippines is bigger than London. The UK, the British Isles rather. So that's a big size. Crew file size. Only 24 gigs, which is I don't even know. Like I don't even think that 24 gigabytes is a big game. It's still a big game in terms of um relatively most games. I would count that 25 and less are smaller games, seeing that I have a 2 terabytes for hard drives of storage, 500 each. But yeah, 24 gigabytes is not a big game by today's metrics. It's a massive game before, but now it's not really. What I would count as big is over like 50. That's already a massive game. 50 or 60, and then above that it's way too big. Like Marvel Rivals is 77 gigabytes, and yeah, it's how massive it is.
while this is in the umbrella of Stop Killing Games, it is not the only thing Stop Killing Games is referencing when it comes to this practice. Pirate Software is so hung up on it being single player games that people lose access to, when that is a component of it, but not
That's a
the
part, yeah.
entire focus.
Well, the short version is the initiative is about requiring publishers to have end of life plans for games they've sold to customers in the future. So when they shut them down, customers can continue running them without their support.
Yeah,
so that's
what?
one thing Thor does.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. Make online only. Once it's end of life, make it offline. Make it a LAN. I don't know how it will like affect games like Genshin Impact. Like you could travel anywhere through LAN. Besides, a lot of people have been like cheating anyway in Genshin. But make it at the end of life. Make it offline. The crew isn't that big, so why does it need to be? Why does its servers have to be killed? What? It's a tenth of the US. Only in 30 gigabytes. That's a chunk of a continent in 30 gigabytes. For reference, like, if I remember correctly, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is like also like a tenth of the Aegean Sea. I think it was the Aegean Sea. Um, it's like 60 gigs, and the crew, the US is much. If you didn't know about anything about geography, the entirety of the US, LA to New York, Washington to Florida, is much bigger than the Aegean Sea. I don't know, or maybe I don't know that part, but anyway, let's keep going.
Doesn't understand. But he also seems to think this is about converting multiplayer games to single player.
Transitioning an entire
I mean, that's what I thought it is. But no, that's just the multiplayer part. It's to make, um, again, at the end of life of a multiplayer game, it has to give. Uh, I'm reiterating what I just said earlier. Make it like Dota. Make it a LAN game.
multiplayer server side game into a single player video game, which means rebalancing the entire experience around single player, rebuilding everything in the
You don't
entire
have
game.
to.
How are you going to do that with Final Fantasy 14? You're just going to make all the raids soloable?
Yeah. I mean, the player owns the game now. If they want to make it boring, they can just make it a one shot. But if you want to enjoy the game offline, you can.
Imagine the day that World of Warcraft shuts down and suddenly you have to make it a single player game for every individual that ever bought the game. That's what they're asking for.
No.
Make it the
Because they
LAN.
would have to sunset live service games as a single player experience. The idea that suddenly you need to make every single live service game playable single player offline? No, dude.
Correct. No.
This part is more confusing than Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah.
Because nowhere in anything on Stop Killing Games has this even been like a talking point from anyone besides Pirate Software. I don't know where he pieced this puzzle together. Like I don't get it. Like if I'm gonna try and like really reach here and give like a charitable explanation for this take, maybe he's extrapolating based on the idea that if publishers have to have end-of-life plans for their games, that includes MMOs, where once the game is getting sunset, you're pulling the plug on it, you would then need to turn the game over to the community in a playable state, an accessible state, like
Yeah.
give the code to them. Thus, it'd turn it into a single-player experience, so the onus would be on the developers to rebalance their game to
Like that's time exhausting. It's time consuming, time exhausting.
Be a single player experience for them? I guess. I have no
Yeah.
idea. That still just doesn't make any sense, but maybe that's the
Yeah.
tree he's barking up with that thought process. I really don't know, because Stop Killing Games at no point ever says any of these multiplayer games need to be converted to single player. That really is outlandish. And the more I think about it, like, the more nonsensical it becomes, because even in Pirate Software's hypothetical fanfic there, why would the developers need to rebalance the game? They would just turn over the code to the community and just it'd be in that state. They're no longer responsible for balancing the game. That's the whole point. They're not indefinitely supporting it. They would just be responsible of leaving the game in an accessible state to the community while they would shut down the servers on their end. Like, they wouldn't need to
Yeah.
go back through with a whole development team and, like, tweak the game to be single player compatible. Like, it
I'm just agreeing with a lot of things.
just doesn't make sense. Like, I really do not understand that one. But apparently a lot of people latched on to that talking point from Pirate Software as something that Stop Killing Games was asking for and how unreasonable it was. Which, if that's what Stop Killing Games was asking for, it would be unreasonable. But that's not what it's asking for.
Yeah.
Nowhere in there does it say that it's directly targeting always online single player games.
Oh, he's so close. He's so close to getting it.
It is vague, and because of that, it will impact.
Oh.
He never has that light bulb moment.
I know it's kind of like a switcheroo. I'm just following the reaction of what Ross was acting. But yeah, do I have to keep repeating myself?
Well, he is correct in that statement. It's almost as if that's not what the initiative is asking for.
I know this part is once again just reinforcing that he doesn't know what the Stop Killing Games movement is about, but I have to just show you this because it is so fascinating, because he himself literally calls out that Stop Killing Games at no point explicitly mentions single-player always online games or anything like that. And for some reason, instead of following the breadcrumbs that would naturally lead him to the conclusion of, oh, maybe I misunderstood, maybe because it's absent here, that's not what this is actually about. Instead, he uses it as a criticism against the Stop Killing Games initiative entirely, saying it's just too vague, it's way too vague. The reason it is not explicitly stated there is because that is not what the whole initiative is about. It is not specifically targeting that thing that you keep saying that it is.
My Yap session is being cancelled by his Yap session. What I was about to say, Charlie just takes it.
I don't know how that never clicked.
But those were his streams with a smaller audience. What does he say in his big YouTube video with over 1 million views that he had time to research?
If we're trying to kill off the practice of developers putting together a live service game, pitching it as a single player experience, and then taking away support in the future.
Now he's changed it again and is making up how it's about single player games are advertised.
I love how this is like a reactionception. I should be down here. Hold up. And there it is. But I want to show this part. Like, I want to support Charlie. I just realized I'm not even subscribed to Charlie. I'll turn this off. Reactionception, everyone. I think I'm on the top left. This is like the point. Anyway, let's keep going.
What is he doing?
It needs to be specific about the business practice it's trying to defeat, which is specifically companies that are doing this under the guise of it being a single-player game, but adding online-only functionality that is not necessary and doesn't add any gameplay elements. That's the problem.
No, that's not it at all.
This is a really strong section from Ross here, because the clips that you saw moments ago were from his stream. When he took more time to watch it and digest it, he still came back in that video misrepresenting it. Like, it never dawned on him. Like, on stream he could write it off as like, oh, he didn't grasp it in the moment, maybe later on he did. Well, then he made the video where he still was talking about things that are just not what Stop Killing Games was about.
He can't change his mind, Charlie. He can't change his mind. He said it. It's a hard no.
And this was the one that really blew up and really started to kind of dismantle the Stop Killing Games momentum.
If we don't like the idea of live service games as a whole, I get it. Don't play live service games then. Don't agree to those terms.
No, he's getting a new thing wrong now. We're not against them existing, we're against them being destroyed with no recourse for the customer.
Pirate Software then goes on to talk about like the business practice of misleading consumers into thinking that what they're buying is a product as opposed to a license to a product, which is a totally separate thing. And then he criticizes Stop Killing Games for not being specific about that thing that he is bringing up, as opposed to what Stop Killing Games is talking about. So he's using that against them for some reason. And then Ross goes into like the license talk.
Our problem is not with licenses failing to inform people. Blizzard says they can take away your purchase for no reason. That sounds pretty clear to me. Our problem is those terms are so hostile to consumers and the medium that they should be taken off the table entirely. This needs regulation. Forget video games. If you look at basic commerce for hundreds of years, when you paid money, you either got to keep what you paid for, or if it was a service, you were told when your access ends.
Yeah, and it's very clear that not a lot of games has gives you that choice. Informs you of when your license expires. It just gives you a license, and when are we gonna expire it? When are we gonna kill it? The answer will always gonna be that laugh, because we don't know when it's gonna be killed. Hold up, I'm reorganizing the windows.
The vast majority of online-only games do neither of those.
He's exactly right. That is a huge problem. Now, Pirate Software is correct here about these companies that will mislead consumers through this fraudulent advertising on what you're actually buying, because in a lot of cases, you don't own any of the shit that you are buying. It is pretty much a rental. You get a permission slip to access the content. That is an issue, and not making it abundantly clear to consumers that that is what you are buying is a problem. And so too is the actual agreements, as Ross demonstrates with Blizzard, where it says they can just completely terminate it for no reason at all. It really does go against the basic idea of commerce entirely. Video games are in a totally different ball game when it comes to that, because half the time you don't realize that you're just buying an admission ticket to a game. You're not actually buying the game. You also don't know how long that's going to last. Again, to go back to Concord, that shit lasted less than a week. Fucking rainstorm, basically. Like, there is just so many problems. So I don't know why Pirate Software...
Concord also could have had a potential had they had Sony. I think it was Sony's fault to, like, Concord had potential. Like, I've seen the original concept art. It's good, but I think they just want to try to one up Blizzard so bad that all of their character designs are shit, to say the least.
Software would be so harsh on Stop Killing Games for not addressing specific things that he himself is bringing up or making up in regards to it. It just doesn't compute. It really is a video that did significant damage to an actually positive initiative that aimed to help consumers in the video game space. All based on his complete misrepresentation of it, which was a complete mess.
Or rather, misunderstanding. I just remembered to change the scenes. Rather, misunderstanding of the whole thing. Not just a misrepresentation. I hate that I have to say this, but it's like he's like the Will Smith in The Matrix. Yeah.
If you try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not want to run one at all, then no one's going to run them.
Oh no! He wheeled out that line about publishers having to support the game forever. He was literally watching the video earlier where it says it won't do that in big letters. That wasn't enough.
I did not even notice the big. I did not even notice the big knot. Because he did not point that out. He did not. Tyler. Thor did not see that. That's a very important big. Uh, that's a very important word that is written in big letters. But then again, it's part. I'm gonna take part of my fault in my part on this because I also did not see it
We
earlier.
just can't stop gamers from going there, even when we spell it out.
That's the last clip I want to show from this section on the pirate software video, but it's a very important one because this is something a lot of people also think the Stop Killing Games initiative is about, where developers, publishers will have to support their games forever. Like, till the fucking heat death of the universe, they'll have to support these games under the initiative. When that is not the case. It is very simply asking that when the game has reached the end of its life cycle, the publishers, developers don't want to work on it any longer, to turn it over to the community to still be in a playable, accessible state. So
Just, this was said before, but I literally just said the same thing earlier.
product can still exist. There is some more nuance, obviously, to how that works, given like publisher developer licensing and a lot of like the code, the binary, that kind of thing. There is a lot at play under the hood there, of course, but it is something that Stop Killing Games isn't naive to, and it is something that is talked about. But I'm not going to dive too deep into it. I encourage you to check more in on it. But this whole belief that it is about endlessly supporting a live service game, even when it makes no sense to do so and it's beyond dead and in the dirt, is ridiculous, because that is not what it is asking for. And a lot of people think that it is. It's not. Pirate Software got that wrong as well. Anyway, I'll stop yapping about it, but as mentioned in the beginning, most of Stop Killing Games hasn't been successful in getting change. And Ross has dedicated so much of his life to this, and it's clearly taken a big toll. Now he's doing everything he can for this last ditch push to try and help. And there are two big things coming up that can do so. And it's what I linked at the very beginning of the at the very beginning of the video about the resources in the description. It's in regards to this.
One is for the UK to sign a government petition to bring this issue before
Link
Parliament.
down below.
Though, keeping it real, I'm not terribly optimistic about this one, since the government response has been a mess by every definition.
I mean, congrats to them. They reached 130% to the UK, but I still can't see. Well, it look like shit. Looks like shit. Like the Java. It's not JavaScript. It's CSS.
But the one that has a lot of power, so much so I think it could change the course of gaming history, is the European Citizens Initiative. Now, I said I'm approaching this like a time traveler because with the trajectory we're on, these are both going to fail. Again, this one is crazy powerful, but the hurdle we just couldn't get past was that it requires 1 million signatures from citizens of EU countries.
Yeah. If you are from Europe, if you are in Europe, a citizen, European citizen, click down below to sign the initiative on Stop Killing Games. There's also a link in the UK, but I mean you guys have overflown. Yeah.
And we've only made it just under halfway. What a lot of people don't realize is that in the
Yeah, it has to, like he said, and what Mut said, it has to be like above or equal to a million subs, a million signatures. Yeah, that's what we want for the EU to listen.
EU especially, it's almost a state of lawlessness regarding the practice of game destruction. Is that the vast majority of games with an online requirement say they can be terminated at any time for any reason. Or Blizzard likes to say any or no reason. But
That's just awful for Blizzard. Good thing I don't really have any games from them. I mean, most of it are pirated, but yeah, that's it. That's just shit for Blizzard.
But according to the EU Commission, that might be a violation of Directive 9313 EEC, which protects consumers against unfair terms in consumer contracts. So if that term is unfair, that means that part of the contract is null and void.
He goes on to explain
Yeah.
how powerful that can be because of what a mess that is. Because there is so much gray area with how the video games currently operate in regards to those protections, it would be a legal headache that would require an analysis of the laws or implementation of new laws that could lead to, hopefully, an improvement when it comes to gaming. So the big hurdle was the signatures, needing 1 million, and currently it's at like 460,000, so it doesn't reach the threshold.
It's barely
I've
halfway.
been very vocal from the very beginning about how little faith I have in petitions, but that's just from the perspective of an American. In America, petitions are more worthless than toilet paper. You're better off just writing what you want on a note to Santa Claus and shipping it to the North Pole than you are doing anything with a petition in this country. I don't know how different it is in the EU. Maybe it really is this powerful there that could lead to substantial change and improvement when it comes to games and preservation and all of what we've already talked about. Hopefully, I mean, that's really all that's left
I'm just
for the Stop Killing Games initiative, which sucks, but that's the position that it's in, unfortunately.
This was recorded and posted 8 days ago. I wonder how much it is now. And yeah, it's very important that you are again, link it down below, and it's very important that you are a citizen of the EU and the UK. Sadly, I cannot. Total signatures. Huh. There are now 1,001,130. 1,130. Damn. You guys are pretty good. I was just on my radar. This news was just on my radar for like last week. I mean, has Ross even yeah, it's also like I haven't seen, and I don't know if I want to see this. The Stop Killing Games with Jacksepticeye just a week ago, and Mudahar is just yesterday. As of by that I mean more than 24 hours, less than 48. But yeah, that's really interesting. I'm a speed reader. Don't worry about it. So it has been. I wonder how they got these thresholds. I'm just gonna look at. Let's go back to listening to Charlie.
And I wanted to talk about it because I really want to see something change with the games industry. I've said that so many times recently, but it's in such a sorry state. I mean, I'm talking big budget AAA space. Indies, I think, are absolutely crushing it, absolutely golden right now in the golden age of indie games. But
Yeah.
overall, in the big budget games,
I mean, thanks for speaking up, Lewis Rossman. Um, I mean, I don't even know if this is affecting me, but hey, thanks for speaking up, Jack, Mutahar, Charlie, Lewis Rossman, literally anyone else. Anyway, links down below. if you're a citizen of Europe. And there's also affiliate links for Shopee affiliate links down below. And as always, you guys take care now, and see ya.